Drake was once an untouchable force in the music industry, known for releasing albums that were more than just music, they were cultural phenomena. Fans would plan their lives around his midnight album drops to be part of the excitement. However, by 2025, that brilliance seems to be fading. The artist who once dominated the scene now finds himself sidelined in a game he once controlled. The pressing question is whether Drake has unintentionally jeopardized his empire with one misstep. Hello everyone, welcome to Celebrity Cookies. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment your thoughts about the video. I hope to see you in our next cookies. This situation goes beyond mere streaming numbers, which are also looking uncertain. It reflects a shift in cultural energy, with a new generation of artists emerging who appear more ambitious, innovative, and in tune with the future. For years, Drake was the king of the streaming era, shaping the industry with albums like Take Care and If You're Reading This It's Too Late, which resonated deeply with listeners. But now, it seems his sound, presence, and strategies might be out of touch with a culture that has moved on. Then there's Playboi Carti. Carti's recent album, I Am Music, didn't just make waves, it completely transformed the discussion about who is currently relevant in music. With a fierce creative vision, bold marketing, and surprise collaborations, including Kendrick Lamar, Carti burst onto the scene. Suddenly, Drake's latest release, SSS For You, which was only 2 weeks old, appeared outdated. To make matters worse, Carti's album reportedly achieved 3 times the first-day streams of Drake's in half the time. Social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit were inundated with a harsh question: is this the moment Drake is finally dethroned? Drake's fans quickly dismissed it as a fluke, claiming Carti's success was just a fleeting internet trend. However, this doesn't feel like a temporary situation. It feels monumental. It's not just about Carti either. Tyler, the creator, continues to push genre boundaries. The Weeknd is redefining pop with his cinematic albums, and Kendrick Lamar remains a powerful force, with every move he makes feeling deliberate and significant. When Kendrick appeared not just once or twice, but 3 times on I Am Music, it caught everyone's attention. This was more than just an endorsement, it was a bold declaration. Each of his 3 features was strategically placed, delivering a powerful message that seemed to challenge Drake's dominance. Fans quickly began to connect the dots, interpreting Kendrick's verses as subtle jabs at Drake. Regardless of the truth behind it, perception is crucial in this industry. Right now, the prevailing narrative is that Kendrick and Carti are closely aligned, while Drake is being sidelined. Things took a turn for the worse. A now-famous clip emerged showing Carti's team sharing streaming charts with Drake's name conspicuously blurred out. Kendrick's contributions, highlighted, circled, and celebrated. Meanwhile, Drake's presence was almost completely erased. Fans reacted passionately, with some viewing it as childish and others as a significant statement. Either way, it was a loud message, louder than any promotional efforts from Drake's team for SSS For You. In a time when visibility is crucial, Drake's silence has been striking. Instead of responding with a powerful single or a sharp freestyle, Drake opted for vague posts on Instagram. He hinted at bonus tracks and teased a possible Scary Hours expansion, but these were just whispers without substance. The rollout seemed disorganized and even desperate, as he tried to redirect attention back to himself while the cultural spotlight was clearly elsewhere. Additionally, there have been murmurs behind the scenes. Industry insiders have pointed out that Drake recently unfollowed several artists on social media. There were no announcements or drama, just a quiet distancing. In the modern hip-hop landscape, these small actions carry significant weight. They indicate broken relationships and strained connections. For someone like Drake, who has always prided himself on being a collaborator, this isolation feels foreboding. Then came the speculation about a lost collaboration with Playboi Carti. Allegedly, Drake had recorded a track specifically for Carti, intended to be a standout hit on SSS For You. However, when the album was released, Carti's vocals were nowhere to be found. Rumor has it that Carti refused to clear his vocals, possibly out of loyalty to Kendrick or disinterest in Drake's current artistic direction. The outcome was a notable snub, and the track in question flopped, barely making an impact on the charts. Another setback for Drake. Longtime fans are beginning to express a sentiment that would have seemed unimaginable 5 years ago. They miss the old Drake. The Drake who blended vulnerability, confidence, and charisma in a single verse. The Drake who made heartbreak sound appealing. The Drake who kept listeners on their toes. Now, many believe he's operating on autopilot, reusing flows, borrowing styles, and leaning too much on the elements that once set him apart. When critics label SSS for You as his least inspired work yet, it's not solely about the music itself. It reflects a deeper issue, a loss of identity in an industry that punishes stagnation. However, the decline of an empire is rarely a sudden event. It's a gradual decline, a crack in the foundation, a series of missed warnings. For Drake, these warnings are accumulating. There are fewer industry endorsements, reduced fan engagement, and a clear decline in his influence on cultural discussions. Once at the center of every conversation, Drake now feels like an afterthought. Yet, some remain hopeful. They believe Drake is merely entering a new phase, a transitional period that all artists go through. They cite Beyoncé's experimental ventures, Kanye's creative unpredictability, and even Rihanna's absence. They argue that reinvention takes time. But even his supporters concede that Drake needs a significant change. Something radical. Something risky. Something daring. He can't simply adjust the existing formula. He needs to dismantle it entirely. Imagine Drake releasing a concept album with no guest features, minimal production, and genuine vulnerability. Or collaborating with underground producers instead of chasing mainstream hits. Or taking a year off, only to return with a film, an album, and a memoir all at once. That's the level of reinvention that's needed right now. Because at this moment, the culture is evolving too quickly. If you're not leading the wave, you risk being swept away by it. Streaming data supports this notion. While Drake's numbers remain impressive by average standards, his momentum, the speed and lasting impact of his work, is diminishing. Meanwhile, artists like Carti, Kendrick, and The Weeknd are gaining traction in every direction. Their audiences are engaged, active, and most importantly, curious. Nobody seems curious about Drake anymore. That's the real threat, not hatred or criticism, but apathy. The industry moves on relentlessly. There's always a new release, a new trend, a new face. And despite Drake's influence on this era, he's not exempt from the rules of staying relevant. SSS for You may not be a career-ending album, but it could signify the beginning of the end, unless he makes a change soon. Behind the scenes, insiders suggest that Drake is aware of the murmurs. His team is reportedly exploring ideas for a comeback tour, potentially centered around his earlier hits. A nostalgia-driven approach. Smart, but also risky. Because if you focus too much on the past, it can start to seem like you have no future. And that's the crux of the issue. Drake's upcoming decisions go beyond just streaming statistics, they revolve around his legacy. Will he gradually fade away like many artists before him, overshadowed by fresh talents and new sounds? Or will he adapt, endure the challenges, and return with something so surprising that it transforms the landscape? One thing is certain, the culture is paying close attention. Drake has created a legacy built on openness, confidence, and an instinct for what audiences want to hear. However, as tastes change, he now confronts his biggest challenge. Can he reinvent himself before losing his status for good? Time is running out. The music scene has evolved, and the growing silence from the top is becoming increasingly noticeable. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on the story.